meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Capaz.
Here.
Mrs. Passione. Here. Mrs. Moore. Yes. Mr. Ruth.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly. Here. Mr. Wright.
Here.
Okay. Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. One was posted on the bulletin board in the clerk's office on April 2nd, 2014, and it was emailed to the retrospect on April 2nd, 2014. Tonight we have the introduction of the 2014 municipal budget in the amount of $7,603,856.04, and the sewer utility budget in the amount of $935,559. Mr. Wright, how do you want to proceed with this? Did you want to? I think the council. What's that? Okay, before we do a motion, we'll let him do his presentation. Yeah. This is only the introduction.
I did not do a PowerPoint presentation, but I will bring one for the public hearing because so many people like mood when I said I was going to do that. I figured I could do the spreadsheets for you.
Which one do you want to do first? The smaller writing?
We're going to do start with the current one.
The smaller printing.
Actually, if you go to the legal size document,
Oh, you want that one?
you have one that's stapled and one that's not. The one page is the revenues. It's so simple, just on one page like that. That's not what it was.
Is this it, the revenue page, or that's
The
what
small
you're
print.
Yeah, it says current fund.
Oh, you said smaller. I thought you meant
Yeah, it's
the
small
8
print.
by 11.
Do you have an extra one?
Yeah, there should be.
You can.
A little print, right? Yeah.
Maybe. As stated by the council president, the total revenues and expenditures, required balance on the New Jersey budget, $7,603,856. And basically, there are several components that make up that legally required line items. Obviously, the largest one is the number one revenue source for the borough is the local levy, including the reserve fund collected taxes, and that's all the way down at the bottom.
Yeah, why don't we make it, start off on column introduction to 2014 budget.
Correct. Correct. But,
Yeah, he's at the bottom line right there, where it says 5,100,000.
I'll give you the top five, and then I'll go down each one.
Yeah, why don't you start?
So basically, our largest revenue, 67.93% of the budget revenue is the local taxes coming from the taxpayers. Second largest is energy receipts tax. That's on the top corner of the page. It's $832,953. That represents 10.95% of the budget. After that, we would have fund balance anticipated of $315,000. That represents 4.14% of the entire budget. And receipts from delinquent taxes, which is kind of goes in part with the first one we discussed, except for it's the lapse in the following year for people who didn't pay. That picks up $300,000 for 3.95%. And then EMS buildings is our fifth largest revenue at $250,000. So going down, the first item you have is your surplus. From there, you go into your local revenues. We have our alcoholic beverage licenses, other fees and permits, municipal court fees, interest and costs on taxes, consolidated municipal property tax relief act. That is basically when you hear the news stories and read in the paper about state aid. That is truly the only thing in our budget that you can legitimately call state aid. But the state wraps everything up and includes our energy receipts tax, which is really, when you see your utility bills, the taxes on there, they're supposed to come to municipalities. Years ago, and they made it easier for the vendors by having all the money go to the state, and then the state gives the money to us.
Do we really get it?
We don't know how the formula works, but you're required to get a statutory increase in each year, or else the bill has a poison pill in it, and it dissolves, and basically goes back to municipalities. So what they've been doing for the past 3 years is they reduce the amount of contract aid that they give you, they increase the amount of energy receipts tax that they give you, and lo and behold, you get the same amount of revenue from either one year to the other. So, but we're also looking at that as a positive over the past 3 years, because it hasn't gone down and never reduced it. So unfortunately, that's the new normal, that we're excited that when we have stable state aid and maybe get reduced.
And just to interrupt for a second, that number that we're looking at,
That's like 10% of the budget right there.
Correct.
well, see how it's 54,000 this year? It's not in this is a previous year. In 2009, it used to be $240,000.
Right.
So it's going from 240.
For introduction purposes, the state said, because it's not certified yet, the state says use the prior number. So that number will change.
The number will go down.
Amended for the,
Yeah.
well, it'll stay the same in total, but likely.
But my point is, it's gone down $200,000, just that one number that we used to get.
Correct. Under that number, we have the interlocal agreements with Triton and DMV, cable franchise fees, NJLEA fees, and I'm pointing that one out, $44,000 there, because one change that you'll see on the expenditure side this year is the state said this year we have to show an offsetting appropriation, and that's for the fire marshal's office, that's the revenues they bring in. So we separated out the salaries on the expenditure side. You'll see it says new on the spreadsheet that 44,000 has to be carved out and shown as an offset. Hotel tax, which is down, but at least it's stable at this point in time. Right, recycle revenue, the market fell out of recycling. We were close to $20,000 about 4 years ago. Now we're lucky to get 9 or 10. And rent for Borough Garage is based on what we received last year. I believe the amount due was $30,000, but we can only anticipate what we received last year, so that's in there for 26. Grants basically is what you have on the books at this point in time, so that number can make your budget total at the bottom higher and lower without really having an impact on the taxpayers. And again, delinquent taxes is based on the amount you had open at the prior year. So that basically covers your revenue side. If anybody has any questions on that, we'll move on.
No?
Okay. On the expenditure side, again, the total is the same as revenues, it's required to balance.
Now, what sheet are you looking at?
I'm going to go down the line on this one. If you go over to introduction 2014.
This one here, appropriations.
Well, we have a 5-year comparison, and for the most part, again, I spoke to the council president about this recently. We've compared, and it's I guess the trend to compare what the introduced budget was or adopted budget the prior year, not necessarily the actuals, because there's just too many numbers to try and keep track of. This year, what we did is we went through and we looked where people were charged and tried to true it up so we're not doing as many transfers at the end of the year to get people to see where they belong. So some of these increases and decreases you'll see off to the right, basically it gives you the percent change in the budget sheet that they're located on, are not necessarily increases in staffing, et cetera. They're basically just putting it to what we're spending or moving the allocations to the proper line items. Some notable ones on there.
To avoid transfers at the end of the year. Remember, we had
You
inflated.
know, avoid them, but to have,
Yeah.
minimize them, how's that?
Yeah.
There's nothing, at least from my perspective, unless you have a question on the first page that really jumps off. Municipal court looks a little bit higher, and that's really just budgeting what's being expended. We've transferred into that line traditionally. It's not an increase in staff, it's the amount of the staffing, the part-timers, the judge, everything's rolled into that one line. So that doesn't mean that there's an increase budgeted there, other than the contractual increase and what council approved for the judges. Same thing under administration. I have a full year of the administrative secretary, my salary, and being charged in the right place. Finance, other expenses, you'll see that there was an increase there. That's to cover the interlocal agreement for a full year there. We transferred into that line item last year, so that's basically showing it in the right place.
And let me stop again. We always talk about where things are coming out of what line item. And because we have so much intermingling, some of, different people's salaries go into different things. So you might have, like your public works department's a classic example. These guys pick up trash, so they're under the sanitary. But yet, the administration is somewhere else. Some of the personnel in the finance department are charged to the sewer utility. So how do you really compare, which is the difficulty? And you can see some of your numbers have gone up and down over the past 5 years. It's kind of crazy, but trying to figure out where do we really want to put them. The total hasn't really changed, it's just putting them in different columns.
Part of the reason we want to do that is because under that cost function, we want to show what it costs to do tax collection. We want to show what it costs to do for the administration. So some of them is a little more subjective as to, how many days a week are you doing this versus that? Should it be more in this budget or that budget?
With the idea how to compare things.
Yeah, you could spin wheels for quite some time. So, on the next page, we're on page 2. I guess the first item that's the percent change is 8.7%. It's a 4% total budget, and that's EMS salaries and wages. Basically, on this one, we've had, and I think for all accounts that are related to activities dealing with emergency management, et cetera, this first quarter of this year has been killer. And even half of the pay period from last year came in from this year. So our overtime in the first quarter is more than it was for the whole year in several of our departments.
Is that because of the weather?
Yeah, definitely the weather. But under the EMS salaries and wages, I budgeted $25,000 more than last year. And the reasons for that are contractual increases, the council actions, the increases in overtime. So basically, I went through and basically trued it up to where I feel the number's going to be by year end. The next number, I will caution you, we have not had any reductions in service. We're maintaining our services the way they are. If you recall last year at budget time, we did a single transfer, or not transfer, but amendment, so that we didn't have to advertise and publish. So we used the police line and increased that salary and wage line, and then did some transfers later. And again, that was for time purposes and for efficiency purposes. So when you compare last year's adopted number to this year, you have to factor in that we increased last year's number by about $75,000. We've had breakage, which basically is retirements in the 80s that are replaced by salaries in the 35s. So there's some benefit there to budget for this point in time. And we've also budgeted for step increases in both this department and in the other department. So the police jumps out a little bit, but you really have to look at the budget picture in total because obviously our
But
services.
it's still nice to see.
Yes. All right, well, and you know what, that is.
But there's no transfer now, hopefully, right?
It's a result of cooperation between the union, between the department, basically just people's choices in life to retire and things of that nature. So we can't predict those types of things, but it definitely helped the budget this year. Again, under fire, you'll see where I broke out the $44,000 to NJLEA salaries and wages, so that's offsetting the revenue. I don't think anything else jumps up there. Municipal prosecutor, nothing to report there. Streets and roads, for salaries and wages, there was some increases there over last year. Under the big change here is based on the budget meetings with the superintendent and with discussions with the director. This line item is where we're maintaining our roads and things of that nature, signage. So basically, there's a $15,000 increase over last year's budget to make sure we can address those operating needs, which aren't really capital needs. Vehicle maintenance is a $15,000 increase, and that's twofold. Basically, it equals what we spent last year. And we had some major repairs that we expect to be one-timers, but we still got hit with them last year. And it also accounts for the fact that we're not charging as much to the grants that we did in the past because of allowable charges were to do repairs of the recycling and collection vehicles, street sweeper. What we're doing now is we're charging that fleet maintenance so we can prioritize, I guess, more visual items to those grants. So and that's been working out. We just need to recognize that we need to increase the budget for that. Solid waste collection, just based on the changes there, it's showing a $5,000 decrease, but again, it maintains step increases. We have people going through their steps, which we have to account for that. Buildings and grounds is another area where we have many things that have been neglected over the years. There's a $20,000 increase in that line item, and that includes things like the $5,000, I didn't even give you the final quote yet, but with the cost of the electric and jumping it in, $5,000 basically done deal to have the fans
Right.
installed in the higher road building.
He called me today. I
Okay,
spoke with
so-
him today after he had talked to you. Well, he had tried me, and then he got you, and
Okay.
we were back and forth. But that's an
So
awesome,
that was-
that's an
that's
awesome
my-
price as far as I'm concerned, considering
Right.
it's a major improvement.
Right. We also have to protect the investments that we're making on our capital side. We have equipment repairs. The trailer is not necessarily a capital item, so that's going to fall into that line.
Okay.
There's a request for a riding mower again, so they can do the things that they need. So they're just saying.
A new riding mower, did you say?
Possibly. They need a walk behind, but that
Or
doesn't
maybe-
really qualify.
maybe I said
Yeah,
wrong
they will
thing,
walk
but
behind,
whatever-
but still, I mean, they really
Right.
need those more. It's the maintenance of the properties that's
Right.
beating up the equipment.
Correct.
But we're getting reimbursed from the lien holders, correct?
Well, if the properties sell, I just
Actually,
got a
we did
list.
have a revenue, I think, last year that came into, from the tax sale.
$11,000.
So if you don't, it doesn't get paired up dollar for dollar like the LEA
Right.
was explaining, but it's in there under revenue, so it
Okay.
goes into the
Yeah.
balance.
So it
I
balances
just
out.
got a list. We have
Right.
35 properties as it sits right now. That we'll have to maintain. So, just for the record.
Okay, moving on to the next page, one of the notables again, to protect our investment and to maintain things. There's a $11,000 increase under recreation and other expenses. That's for the field contract and things that we have in the pipeline right now. Also, at the request of the councilpersons involved with celebration of public events, there's a $5,000 increase there this year to hold some, I believe, summer events and things of that nature. So,
Good.
based on how the bills fell last year, utilities is kind of plus and minuses. Look at the average and what's going on with the gas prices and electric prices and things of that nature. So they basically remain pretty much the same, but as a unit as a whole, they're plus and minus. Code enforcement is to cover the changes made in 2013, which now roll in 2014. That's not related to what we were discussing at the prior council meeting. That would be under the UCC trust if that arrangement is made. I guess I'm kind of talking about the president, but
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention for a second.
the-
What did you say?
The increase in code enforcement.
Yeah, that's-
That's for the zoning situation. It's not the fire subject. That would be under UCC trust. But someone did ask a question on that. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now it's time to put on the seatbelt because we're going into the insurances. And while we had some reductions in the budget due to attrition and to good decisions made in contracts, state laws, things of that nature, general liability and workers' comp, basically, if you, I'll just tell you this, that on the next page, the library appropriation in 2010 used to be $204,000, and that covered offsets, including insurances and other items that were in the budget. Since then, based on the rateable value, it's come down to $176,000. So while we basically have maintained the appropriation going to the library, we've actually increased it to make more direct costs versus indirect costs. It's another one of those cause and effect things that if things go back to other areas. So we have the 2-year phase in on the $30,000, just for the additional assessment under the general liability. So, and that was for the issue that we had with the employee, where basically in year one, you didn't pay, and then it's a 2-year assessment. So it's that part of
That's
the
to the
increase
gym.
there.
Is that to the gym? Is that the
Correct,
settlement to
yeah,
the
that's
gym?
for general liability. And also, I mean, our workers' comp history and things of that nature have led to increases, so, and I think just the industry as a whole. So, the bill hasn't gone up as much as it appears, it's just that the amount being charged for current fund budget is now closer to the actual bill. I guess that's the best way to explain that. So that accounts for the general liability and the workers' comp. The employee group health. Give me a second. This used to be a number where you could take your invoice in January and and multiply it by 12, and that was the amount we put in the budget document. But a lot has changed with the laws and the way we're required to account for it. And I'm not gonna get too, I don't want everyone's eyes to glaze over, but basically, there's the full bill. Then you have to show in the budget document the amount that goes chargeable to employees in the sewer fund versus the employees in the general fund chargeable. Then you have to subtract the amount of the employee contributions and show a net amount. But then when you almost think that you're done, then you have the state health benefits average. And the difference between the state health benefits average, which I believe is about 6 point something or 8 point something this year, I think it's 8 point something, and the 2% levy cap is accounted for outside of the cap. So basically, there's two spots in the budget. The first one, you'll see that the 787,191, which represents a 10% increase under employee group health. If you go to the next page and look almost all the way down at the bottom, there's also $35,000 outside the cap, which is a little bit less than it was last year outside of the cap, just based on how the calculations work on the levy work. But you have to add those two numbers together. But basically, the total this year is $960,000. Employee contributions this year will be $69,000, which is up from about 41 or 42 last year. The sewer portion of that is $97,400. So basically, it just works its way backwards into the two budget spots. So you also, and it's just incorporated in the utility into the other expensive line. But that's I think one of the bigger changes in the budget this year.
Is this going to be anticipated every year, this big change in the group health? I mean, this is
Well,
gonna
the
be every year?
employee contributions still have two more steps for phase into the employees.
Okay.
So that will help offset, it's cost sharing basically, it's a good way to look at that. I've talked to some people and there's still pros and cons, whether we would be interested in testing waters with the state health benefits plan. I know we're supposed to compare that to get a point for the best practices. I talked to a few people, I'm looking into that. The biggest concern there.
I think we looked at it last
We
year
get-
too, didn't we?
We get dividend reimbursements, there's lots of positives that we get on the JIP side, or the HIP side, basically.
Right.
I guess the concern is how long will the state health benefits plan stay where it is before it changes? Because you have a choice, once they change it, this is what it is. I think you're out for 2 years if you leave the HIP.
Right,
So basically that would give you, will they take the retirees, do they accept your prescription plan? And I'm not saying I'm not for it or against it, but I just think it's not as easy as the state saying everybody should come join up.
Well, I think we have an obligation to look at it every year.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I
there are some
think
people,
we
we
looked at it last year and decided.
looked at it 2 years in a row, I think,
That the HIP plan was more beneficial.
Yes.
Right. I think when we were in negotiations with the police, that was one of them that.
It was one of the things they wanted to do.
Managers went out and did a comparison, and we were ahead of the curve on the health, the joint fund, so. But, so that
Okay.
number obviously will continue to go up, I'm sure.
Or you know-
One positive, if you go to the middle of the page on the next page, we had
Okay.
a
What's,
40.
the next page you're talking is interlocal service agreements, that up at the top where it says interlocal service agreements? Is that the page
No,
you're
no,
talking
you're
about?
correct. You're one
For
ahead.
that.
The page before, total
Right.
operations.
Under,
Total operations?
yeah, if you
Okay.
go to the middle of the page, there's a few negatives there, including the $9,000 for public employees retirement system and $36,000 for our police and fire retirement system. So our revised calculations by the actuarials for 2012 year end, basically net reduction, so that helped out the budget some this year.
it makes no sense. The pension is, it's underfunded and we're getting a deduction.
I guess we have to take it. That's
Well,
what
we're going to take it.
Sitting here doing the budget, I have no problem with it this year. Next year, we might criticize it. Again, the group health is down a little bit, but that's actually a bad thing because it meant that there was less outside the cap, but we don't have a problem with our appropriations cap. Again, on the next page, now to the interlocal service agreements.
Well, you already went through the library, you should, you explained to everybody how it went from 2, yeah, it's,
The library went up by about 1,000.
Did you see that?
So we're on page,
We're on interlocal service agreements.
okay,
With interlocal service agreements, the revenues are required to equal the expenditures. So we received 100% of our Triton interlocal last year, and it's for the same amount, it hasn't changed. So basically, we can budget the same amount this year. On the DMV, unfortunately, the state did not send the December payment until January, and therefore, based on the accounting rules for budgeting, we can only anticipate the $78,000. So now, obviously, that doesn't hurt us because as long as we get 12 payments in the succeeding year, then it'll help with our revenue streams for the year revenue. So it's one of those things that you're wondering why it keeps going up and down. It's based on the collection.
when we receive the paper.
In the wire. The grants here are Safe and Secure and Clean Communities. The Safe and Secure grant, I believe, is 39.2 on the revenue side and about 151 on the appropriation side. Capital Improvement Fund, based on conversations with all the department heads and council members, I budgeted the full $50,000 for the Capital Improvement Fund. There was only $35,000 required for the fire truck. So basically, the balance there will give us the availability to work into the capital for 2014 priority items for the council to see. On the payment of bond principal, the number is the same as last year. That's not an error, that's a correction on the principal. Interest is lower because we paid more down. And this year was the first year we were required to make a payment on our short-term financing, so that's $27,000 there. And the plan would be, hopefully by year end this year, to actually go to permanent financing on our temporary notes, which we have out.
have we gotten our money from Green Acres yet?
I'm waiting for that. I sent him a follow-up email the day we talked, and I'm gonna email my list of calls as soon as I get out from under the paperwork.
That's only 7 years old.
Well, not the project part of that. I mean, it's not, we haven't waited 7 years.
Yeah, but we fronted all the money,
Right, but the majority of it was spent.
and we get reimbursed.
When are we getting reimbursed?
Right,
So it's waiting for the
project
money.
has been open forever.
It still hasn't been opened.
Right,
But-
most of the work was done.
Right. the
Oh,
majority
it was
of
done
it
3 years ago.
No, well,
No, because in the beginning, we were using, it's not third party, but we were using the county grant, the bond.
There was a lot of
There's multiple funding sources, and the Green Acres loan was the last portion spent because we didn't have the money, so, and that was spent last year, so. It was supposed to be in before year end, so I don't know what the hang up is there, and there's at least 3 emails up there inquiring, so I'm gonna put the engineer.
The guy's name is Phil Collins, so it's great. Phil Collins.
I'm sure it's not him.
Maybe he's on
He's
tour.
very- he's
That's
very
right, he's on
helpful.
tour.
He's very helpful, and he does not like me to be comfortable. But, basically, the item that we have no control over, although we can do our best to make it work, is the reserve fund collected taxes. That number is based on your prior year collections and the amount required to be raised for yourself and for the other entities, which include the county open space, local, Board of Ed, and the regional Board of Ed district. So we used a 3-year average last year for budget purposes at 97.63. I believe the board says that our Evans number is 97.68, but the auditors haven't had that yet. And also you have to look at what's happening in your community, because if you budget too high and it doesn't come in, you end up with a deficit in your revenues. This year's reserve is calculated based on 97.55. So that's not a lowball number, but it's also a conservative number, and it's consistent with what's been happening over the past couple of years. Although on a positive note, we did receive a major tax payment that we would have loved to have last year, I guess on March 31st, so, which was followed up by a tax appeal on April 1st. So whatever the reason, we got the money, so I'm not worried about that. But that represents 6% of the entire budget. The number is $465,000, and it's about a $22,000 increase over last year. So of our $108,000 of the budget actually went up, $22,000 of that was the reserve fund collected taxes, which again, if all works out well, filters through and goes back in for available uses in the future. So, yeah, question, which is part of it. There's a couple of things that were required to go over. The one we did already, we went over the allocations of how the insurances work. The other item is you're supposed to identify any items that are one-time revenue, or one-time expenditure, things of that nature. The only thing we had on there last year was the general liability insurance for $30,000. So that would go from 30 to 15, and it would just show one line. I don't think we have any revenues that are one-time revenues in our budget. I think we use good estimates in there. We don't have any appropriations that are not anticipated in the budget. We can have that stuff, so we don't have any problems there. And also there were no change orders to those numbers. And this is the question that everybody is always asking. The average assessed home in Borough of Runnemede for 2014 is $140,086. And in doing the calculations, obviously, I'm comfortable with what I'm introducing for our rate and our number. We're using estimates because the budgets aren't adopted at the other entities at this point in time. Basically, we're looking at, I think, a 1.8% increase. What that means locally is on a house at 147,086 would be a $27 increase, $27.36.
It's 147, you said 140 first, it is 147.
147,086.
$27,036.
And it's $27 increase,
$27.36.
and the school board was $60.
Yeah.
He has it.
Right, now, based on the estimates of what they introduced, and again, I'm not even stressing.
And these are only introductions.
Correct. I do have all the numbers that, based on what I've read and heard, the total will be $123.7 for annually, and that includes.
That's the county.
And again, that's estimating there.
Yeah.
but
All right, the county,
That would include.
The regional.
county,
the regional,
And the local.
and the local,
Right.
and it's total of 167,
No,
No, 123.70.
123.70?
Correct, of which 27.36 is ours.
Right.
the school, the two schools in the county. But we're only $27.36.
I know, we're
At
the
this point.
smallest amount, but we've always been the smallest amount.
Right, but for discussion purposes, I don't think it's a problem saying it's approximately what we think it will be, but until they all come in and we get the form from the county, I don't like discussing the total rate, so.
I know, but this,
But
at
it's
least
good-
this
it's
is
good
kind
to
of just
understand how we're impacting this.
gives us a ballpark figure.
Right, the full tax bill.
And I think it's got to be made clear is that the goal, even though we hear the 2%, there's all this outside cap that he, talks about, labors with all the, what's
Right.
outside, what's inside. Our 1.8% is a hard cap, meaning that we didn't take anything that we were allowed to take. Meaning that the increase in the health insurance that went up $135,000, we could have taken that, what was it, 39,000, whatever was outside the cap, we could have increased taxes that amount. We didn't do that.
Well, we weren't required to, so.
What's that?
We weren't required.
We weren't
If
required.
we had to, we wouldn't have a choice but to use it, so.
Yeah.
Obviously, because of the way circumstances are facing.
And I don't think we're hurting any department. As you can see, every department, I think, got
I'm
Public Works,
happy. I'm
everybody,
happy. Public Works.
Public Safety got things.
And now, is this, what about that new trash truck?
Well, what Mr. Wright said, when he was talking about the $50,000 that we have for our down payment,
Right.
we used $35,000 for the fire truck. That leaves $15,000 as a down payment for another, correct me if I'm wrong, $225,000 of more bonding that we could do for the end of the year with our $15,000 down payment. And that's beside any grants that we haven't already gotten at this point. The DOT, Bob was here, the DOT money, usually that for the roads, either for the Reed or South Oakland. It doesn't include some of the other stuff that we haven't done. So we still have enough to borrow another $225, I think, at this point. Depends on it, yeah.
But I think I have 3 quotes, I guess it depends which quote we use.
Yeah, and then, the road program still has money from the previous year, money that's left over,
Yes.
DOT money, community block grant money, things like that. And we're making these big purchases this year, I think, through it, that's eating up most of the bond money.
Well, we have to do the truck.
And our bond, I can just let you know, I mean, our total debt is pretty low. You didn't put that, it's not a part of the statement, is the debt at all?
No, actually, I don't have any of this.
Yeah, I mean, we're selling bonds, I think, at the end of this year, is that what our goal is?
Before year end.
Before you end, we have to sell our bonds. Ours, we only have $3 million outstanding. I mean, all you have to do is look at their debt payment. You'll see that our interest went down.
Very
We're only paying $99,000 in debt. I mean, interest on our debt. So I think we're doing pretty well.
We're doing well. We're doing well.
And I think if we don't keep, I believe in keeping to that 2% hard cap. I think when a person gets their tax bill, and their tax bill is $5,500, they don't expect it to go up more than $110, say that. So, I don't think we're quite there, because I think the regional, the local, and the county, they may use 2% with their caps, where we're 1.8% hard. If you multiply your tax bill, we only went up.
Yeah.
Well, we do our best to communicate to everybody.
It's gonna be our fault that
It is about communicating.
Communicate the best.
It's not come from us.
Borough, the municipal part is $27 in this part.
Right.
And on just basically on the debt side, when I first came on board and the plan that basically each council has worked with since I got here, was that we were coming down, trending on our debt service payment. We were past our high point. And we didn't want to overburden the taxpayer, because obviously that's an exception to the cap. So you would never want to go all the way up to your maximum, because you would crush your taxpayer, basically. So what we tried to do is, after we hit the peak when they were coming down, we're trying to maintain a level debt service. And that's always been the goal. So if we have,
I think we're achieving that.
I think we have,
Definitely think we're
and
achieving
basically we're
that.
using the short-term financing to
Yep.
dovetail into when the debt's falling off. I think we have two payments that are $200,000 each in the next two budgets, and I think after 16, that $400,000 relief will start picking up the amount for the, when we do the permanent
Going forward,
financing, and it will
yeah.
tie in. And I believe in 2018, the prior debt will be gone, and we'll only have new debt going out. And you kind of have cycles, and that's how you try to keep things going and prioritize it. So, but I think that the policy has been a combination of the short-term while the long-term is coming down and refinance. We've gotten great rates without having to go each year and pay all the costs of issuance and things of that nature. The market's
And
changing.
why are we doing so well with our rates?
It's just where the market is on the short term right now, and the way the bond anticipation notes, it's basically minimum debt service payments and paying interest each year. I think we've been around 1% each year.
Yeah, less than one.
That's
The
great.
TD Bank gave us what was it, 0.7 something? Was it-
0.79 or something.
But I think when we go to sell our bonds,
Could be a
these are
little higher.
long-term bonds, those are gonna be higher. I mean, between 2 and 4%.
Probably from around 2 months.
Yeah,
So,
somewhere between.
but-
And that's when they do the bond rating on the town. We haven't had our bond rating done in years.
right.
But I think we're still building surplus. As you can see, every year there is surplus that's built, which is good, which means, we're not running real tight. Our collection rate's a little bit low, but I think we're gonna do better this year. Joyce is putting the hammer down.
And really, it's
There's not
beyond
much more I can do.
It's beyond their purview, it's just a question of whether they have the ability to pay.
Yeah, and I think our biggest tax payer has made their payment this year, so hopefully that's gonna help us out this year.
That- Unless there's a question, that takes care of the parent fund. And the smaller 8.5 by 11 worksheet
Oh, for the sewer?
is the sewer fund. Basically, the salaries and wages represent contractual increases and step increase. So basically, there's a little bit of change there based on actual, again, versus what was budgeted the prior year. Based on, I guess, like paraphrase, new coverages, changed insurances. So basically, we have somebody that has coverage that didn't have it in the past. The general liability and workers' comp offsets, things of that nature. There's a couple items that are operating, which include the root control and also, I think, sort of diversion, bypass, something or other. I can't do it justice. I know that it's an operating cost, not necessarily a capital cost, but there's a little bit extra needed for that. So that basically represents the main differences in the other expense line.
It sounded good, though. Yeah.
Flow bypass. which is
That's
pump
it.
bypass.
There it is.
I don't know what the proper term is, but I know what we need to work on there. The debt service is what it is. Also, we're required to budget the amount that's on our debt service schedule. Because of the way that the sewer, I don't think we took the whole loan due to the bids came in lower than what they anticipated. Basically, on the front end of the debt service, we haven't had to make principal payments for the past, I think, 2 years for one of the loans. This is the last year of that. So that's the surplus in that fund was kind of, I guess, went up a little bit only because the full debt service payments weren't due. I think that total amount was $200,000 over the cycles because each year there's 2 payments that are due. So while we still budget the full amount, you'll notice that when you look at reports that the full amounts weren't expended, and that's why that will be done after I believe this payment in August. So we'll have the full payments due going forward. And the revenues basically, based on those changes, I increased the surplus to cover the increased cost, but again, that surplus is going to be covered by the fact that we're not going to make our full debt service payment this year. It's not required, so basically have a net impact. So that's basically the revenues and expenditures. There's less line items obviously in the sewer fund, but I think that they're maintaining and sort of stable proceeding, she said.
I spoke to him about that, so, I mean,
Okay.
it sounds like it's something, quite honestly, that would be something worthwhile to do.
Right.
It sounds like a big undertaking,
Right.
but it does sound like it's, the way he explained it to me, because he talks over my head most of the time about bypass valves and whatever else, but yeah, he
I
did talk
wasn't
about that.
100% sure of the scope. If it's very big, we might be coming back and deal with it as a capital item. The sewer fund does not require a down payment because we're self-liquidating.
Right, I don't think it's that large, the way he described it to me, but it's just a large undertaking, that's all.
What is it you're gonna
It's
do?
for if it's the one down at Third Avenue, is that what he talked to you
I
about?
think the arrow goes out that it would just
Correct.
bypass.
Because if anything should happen, if there's a shutdown, from my understanding, the way, if there has to be a shutdown, there is no way to bypass it right now. There's nothing you would do. So this creates a bypass flow system so that you could do a repair. If there's a repair that has to be done, because right now, the way he explained it to me, and I could be completely off base, but there is no bypass. So this would put in a bypass.
At the one down
situation.
on-
At the one down Third. That's the one we were discussing. Is that the one he talked to you about?
Third is that one?
He said one of
Yes.
the stations.
Yeah, I think that we're on Third, and I'm constantly told it's Third. I was like, okay.
Do the new stations, I'm assuming, have the
Yes,
bypasses?
and this is one of the stations that does not, and he feels that that would be in our best interest as something
What was
to
the
look
cost?
into. He did not give me a cost. He just said that it was something that we should look into. And I said to him, how large of a cost are we talking? Because it's a time issue, and it does require some effort, but he didn't make it seem as though it was a gigantic expenditure. But,
And they would do
How
it
come
in-house?
it wasn't done when the others were done?
because that pump station is just archaic at this point.
One of our older.
It's definitely one of the older ones. I mean, because to redo a pump station, what was the cost on that pump station? It was like $7 million.
No, it was
1 point.
over $1 million.
It was over $1 million. Maybe it was
Yeah.
1.7. 1.7.
Some-
One down at Lakeview.
We did 2 at one time.
Right, and it was a tremendous amount.
It was a
I
few
mean, the
million
one-
dollars. That's where this big
The one
debt.
at Third is not great. It's not great.
I mean, Lakeview's new,
Lakeview's new. The one over by
Orchard Avenue.
Shane.
Orchard is new.
Right, Orchard's new, but the one over
I
by.
think there's only 2 that are old left. There's 2, the Third is old,
Central Avenue's the,
Central's
Forest
new,
is not.
Forest is
Forest
old.
is older, I think, and then Third is older.
Yeah, I
Those
think
were
we're down
the
to 2.
Those were the 2 without the generators, and those were the 2
Yes.
that seemed to be.
We're down to our last 2.
Yes, so we're down to the last 2, but it's. a
So
big
what's your
expense.
future plan?
I don't have one, to be quite honest. We discuss it, and we talk about the things that need to be done, and I do take his recommendation on it. I mean, this is what he does, and John is very well informed when it comes to that, so.
I guess the bypass protects
The
us.
bypass protects us.
And then if it
that's what
does
comes
break
to.
down, then we borrow
Right,
money.
and that,
Then we'll have to
that
get a
one at
new-
Third Avenue has, I don't wanna say consistent issues, but it does seem to have issues.
I remember
The
the
street
issues
has-
last
the
year, we
street
were
has
there, big issues, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, yeah, it's just the whole, it's also a lot of what the residents, as they always tell me when they clean out, they clean them. It's what goes down the drain. What goes down the drain is a huge issue for when it backs up down there. And that area is prone to it. But this would hope, this is a case of a major issue.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he'll put his recommendation in.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
All right. Well, now we are,
Making a
we
motion?
need a motion.
You know what, I think that, as part of the process, we should get the dates for the hearing and the publication, just for the record.
The public hearing will be on May 27th.
Okay, fine.
Isn't that what, I don't know.
That's a call.
That's a caucus.
It's a
So
caucus.
that's,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
And it'll
Wait.
be advertised on the 9th, I believe we figured out, Rich?
So the public hearing and adoption would be on the 27th.
Not adoption.
Better caucus
Public
meeting.
hearing.
Call hearing and then the,
It's a
then
public
then
hearing.
in
And
June.
actually we'll be able to adopt.
Oh, we won't be able to adopt till we get our money,
So
our
the state
The
says,
state,
okay. So it's public hearing.
public hearing on the 27th. Why wouldn't we do it on regular council?
Why are we doing it in May?
Because you have to wait 28 days between your reduction and adoption, and we fell into next count, that's the next available council meeting. I think that we should take every opportunity to meet all of our timelines. If we have our public hearing, then as soon as we get approval, we can get it adopted. We want to make sure we're on time with the,
So you're saying it's better to do it at the caucus,
yeah,
so that we could adopt in the
Yeah.
June meeting, if something
either
happened.
in June or that night if we're lucky enough to get the approval for that night.
Okay, all right, so May,
And for the years.
So May 27th is the budget. Along with-
public hearing
Public hearing for the budget.
for the budget,
Right. May 27th, 6 o'clock.
starting at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. That's our caucus.
All right, so we'll have to
Okay.
address.
And the synopsis will appear in the retrospect on the 9th of
May. Advertised in the retrospect on May 9th. Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the introduction of the budget.
Or I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call?
Mr. Provaz.
Yes.
Mrs. Passiano.
Yes.
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Root.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
5 ayes. And 1 absent.
Motion is passed. So May 27th, everyone. And then, that's okay. Good and welfare at this point, so there's nothing else on our agenda. Anyone wishing to speak? This portion of the meeting is open to the public. No? Seeing no one, I have a motion to close the public portion.
I make a motion for the public board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is closed. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.